All right. Welcome back, fellow TFFL owners, to another TFFL Webcast. We're here in the 2019 offseason. It's Wednesday, May 22nd. We are now well past the NFL draft. We had a nice flurry of TFFL trades that we'll be discussing. Lots to talk about, actually, here. Let's do our panel intros. Reintroduce everybody. Our commissioner, Terry Rogers.
Hello, everyone.
Our IT director, Czar of the K-Wheels, Hank.
Good evening. Happy to be here.
Berto from Jack's Giant Killers.
Hey, Stick. Great to be back.
Indeed. And Chief from Skipper of the Sponge Fisherman.
Yeah, it's good to see you all. Let's get on this.
An active franchise this offseason, the Sponge. We'll be talking about them. All right, I've come up with a trivia question. It's one that I don't think I've ever asked before. As we start to look ahead to the TFFL draft, I want you to tell me, and there's going to be 4 possible points here. Tell me when the last year was when the number 1 overall pick in the TFFL draft was traded, where the worst team from the year before did not actually make that number 1 overall pick. Give me the year, 1 point. Give me either of the 2 teams involved in that transaction, 2 points there. And tell me the player chosen number 1 overall.
Okay, so I don't know if it makes a difference, but it was traded before the draft. The pick was traded, not the player. Okay.
The pick was traded, correct.
Good question.
I got no idea. No.
Wait, I'm sorry. The year, the 2 teams, and what was he at? Last one?
The player taken number 1 overall.
Okay.
Berto, do you know?
No, I have a thought, but I don't think it's it.
I got nothing.
All right, it's a tough question,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of points out there. Let's see if you can get at least a couple, maybe.
I have an idea, but
I think it predates the Sponge Fisherman.
I don't think this is right.
All right. Hey, heading into his second year as commissioner, Terry, why don't you take the stage here? I saw the website was renewed.
Website is renewed for another year. The latest essential document that I sent out after the Julio Jones trade is correct.
Okay.
I did have one error, but I fixed that, so it was minor. Another thing we do have, Berto, you have put the down payment on the house. I just want to say I know you said you want to do it all at once, but whenever you're ready, let us know and we will start getting you your funds.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'll put the other half down soon, and then we'll sort it out.
Okay. All right. And then other than that, at the end of this month, approximately, we should have a recommendation on the free agent process from Berkman and his committee. So we'll see what we find out there. And that is all from the commissioner. I'm ready to talk draft.
Those of us with minority owners should start trying to confirm attendance for the draft. That'll help with the billing.
That'll make sense. Yep.
I believe Connor said he was in, tentatively at least.
Bob is pretty solidly in.
Yep. Okay, good.
Good.
Hey, can I go back to the trivia question?
Sure.
Just to clarify, this is the number 1 pick was traded after the previous season ended, so they knew for a fact they were trading the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
I'll give him my first next year, and that turned out to be number 1 overall.
No, it was known to be the number 1 overall pick.
Oh, then my answer's not right, but that's all I got.
I got no idea. None.
I don't either.
Take a Hail Mary.
I'm worried it's going to be me, though. I'm worried that I did something with this, and that's going to be the problem.
Well, I am kind of embarrassed that I did put. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into our roundtable chat. We do have a lot to talk about. NFL draft come and gone here. We had Thornburg on Lord knows when, not too long ago, talking about the relatively weak class coming in this year. He kind of struggled to give us a good top three, really. But let's see if we can talk about a clear top six or so tonight. And let's start right at the top. Is Josh Jacobs definitely the number one overall pick, or are guys like David Montgomery, even Miles Sanders, perhaps in the mix for the Beavers?
I think Jacobs is, no question, number one.
Barring injury, it's hard to see it any other way.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things can happen between now and the end of camp, but yeah, if I'm drafting tonight, I'm picking Jacobs.
Yeah, it looks that way, but we're early still. I mean, let's see what happens in camp. But yeah, he looks
Sanders
like
and
right
Montgomery are both in decent situations as well with the teams they're on. But yeah, I think Jacobs is pretty solid number one.
I get a little bit of sense that Montgomery, could be a workhorse from day one on a good Chicago offense, and he could be a threat to Jacobs, I think. But I think Bill's on record, at least at the moment, as saying that Jacobs is his guy.
Let me tell you, you know what I like? I like the kid the Rams picked up because you just
Henderson.
don't know what's happening with Todd Gurley.
Mhm.
now. Henderson, is that who that is?
Darrell Henderson, yeah.
Guy out of
Isn't he
Memphis.
little? I haven't looked that much of it. Isn't he small?
Look,
Yeah, he's
relatively so, I believe.
He's like one of those 5'8", 210 guys.
That's what I mean. But maybe that works.
Henderson is a guy I would project in the top six. Maybe somebody that a team like the K-Wheels would be looking at say number 4 overall.
Maybe. I'd love to see there be another running. It seems like the three guys you mentioned, the Jacobs, Montgomery, and Sanders, look to be the top 3, at least the best opportunities now. I would love to see another 1 or 2 or 5 guys get there. A lot of good receivers, though, too. I mean, there's a ton of really good receivers in this draft.
I think,
Yeah.
well, we going in order here, so
Yeah, sorry.
That's right. I mean, I think we would all agree. Tell me real quick if you don't that as Hank said, that the top 3 there's a top tier of running backs, as I mentioned: Sanders, Montgomery, and Jacobs. Those are probably the top 3 picks, barring injury.
I
No
would
arguments there.
put Henderson in that group.
Thornburg's watching live, and he just texted me. He says Jacobs is definitely number 1.
All right.
I'll tell you what, I'm gonna
There we have it.
I'm gonna pick. I think the wheels go off script at number 4, though. So Jacobs, Montgomery, Sanders. Okay, we're in on that. I think the wheels go receiver, and I think they go N'Keal Harry, Patriots. I think
It could be, and that's what I mean. Is like if one of those guys, N'Keal Harry, DK Metcalf, one of those guys clearly does something that makes them look like a future Julio Jones, I could definitely be tempted that way. But I'd love to see Henderson or I don't know, one of the other guys step up and say we're going to be relevant. I don't know. Damian Harris is a guy who maybe can become relevant. So.
Harris, the other guy is Singletary up in Buffalo.
Singletary and
Bills.
But
yeah, who's in Kansas City?
you got Carlos Hyde and Damian Williams there.
Yeah.
And who's behind them?
They did draft somebody. You're right.
That's who I'm interested in, because I think Carlos Hyde and Damian Williams are not long for this world.
I have Harris going to the Hams at 11.
Harris is a first-round pick in this draft.
Yeah.
At the moment.
You get Travion Williams in Cincinnati.
Yep.
Justice Hill in Baltimore is an interesting guy.
Yep.
It's
Chief
sort of snuck this in. I mean,
fast.
Chief, you were arguing that Darrell Henderson maybe is actually a top 3 pick.
I think he's in that group. Or if you want to say he's without a doubt the number 4 guy, I can live with that. I haven't really worked up these guys. I haven't done any kind of scouting yet. But assuming Jacobs goes number 1, I'm looking at Montgomery, Sanders, and Henderson.
And maybe not on this webcast, but a topic for a future one is, as you talked about there, what does this say about Todd Gurley? Is he such a stud going forward? Does that bring the Boba Fatts, the Frams offense back to the pack a little bit?
Is Henderson going to turn Todd Gurley into Mark Ingram?
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Because man, I haven't watched a whole lot of highlights, but boy, he just seems like an Alvin Kamara type. Or
If Henderson is Alvin Kamara, sign me up at
4.
4. I'm in.
Cohen.
Yeah.
Terry, let me put you on the spot here. Is Kyler Murray at all going to be a consideration for the Mongols at number 6 overall?
No. At this point in time, no. Yeah, no.
Have you specifically talked to Bob about that?
Not in terms of the draft. Bob was very against the Cardinals drafting him, and didn't want it to happen right up until the day. In fact, when they picked him, I got a one-word text, just fuck. So that's how he felt about Kyler Murray. Again, the draft is in September. Maybe he goes into camp and he's the greatest looking quarterback ever, and things could change. But no, right now Kyler Murray is not in our plans.
Right now, who is your protected quarterback?
Right now, it would probably be I'm exploring some trade talk, and so I'm going to keep one of them. I don't want to. Probably, I'd like to keep Jimmy G if I'm able to work some things out. And why? Just because Drew Brees is 40 and he's probably going to be better this year, but I know in the past, what has Kramer said? You're comfortable losing. I don't want to say I'm comfortable losing, but I could build for another year. You know what I mean? If Jimmy doesn't work out, but I'm just kidding. But Drew Brees, I have potentially something in the works for him, so we'll see what happens.
Wow,
that's a good nugget.
Heard it here first.
There you go.
That's a very good nugget.
So Drew Brees can be had. Drew Brees is available.
He's
Who
available.
wants Drew Brees is the question.
I don't know.
I
What's
mean,
he worth?
the only guy I see there is the Jack's Giant Killers and just the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Killers are licking their lips. That's exactly the kind of scrap. Them and the Senators. That's a scrap heap kind of trade. I get a 5th for Drew Brees and then ride him, all the way.
I'm perfectly happy with Rivers or no quarterback. So I'm not trading for a quarterback.
Drew Brees.
It's not the Killers.
All right.
Not the Killers.
Very interesting.
Interesting. Okay, let's get to some TFFL trades that have already happened, and maybe we'll have a new one to talk about soon. We got 4 of them. Let me go back to Chris Carson. Berto just mentioned Phillip Rivers. Chris Carson and Phillip Rivers to the Giant Killers. First rounder back to the Hams. Carson definitely a keeper, added to Lamar Miller. I think the Giant Killers have done a good job of shoring up their running back core. Doug Baldwin, by the way, retires at receiver. That actually helps clear things up there and lets the Giant Killers go with a younger receiving core. The big question I have, I said this to Berto, I think I said this to the league, is Phillip Rivers really a keeper? If Drew Brees isn't a keeper, is Phillip Rivers not a keeper? What's your plan here, Berto? And if Rivers is a keeper, who's sliding off the list?
So, Rivers is probably a keeper. I don't know if I really have anyone sliding off the list with Baldwin getting hurt. So, at this point, it'll be Rivers, the running backs, DJ Moore, Corey Davis, and Ertz.
I guess so. Sterling Shepard to me is the guy.
Shepard, and I'll think about. There's always a deals to be had at the end of the deadline, so that's possible too. So I like to get running backs early in the off season, and I like to wait right till the last minute for receivers. Maybe pick up a receiver right at the end. But other than that, I think DJ Moore and he flashed. We get younger. I got to give Corey Davis one more year. I don't think Corey Davis is so much the issue as Mariota is, but he deserves one more year, and then we go from there. So the way I look at it, Phillip Rivers and DJ Moore were both throw-ins to trades. Weren't the center guys in trades. They were throw-ins, and that's I like getting that guy that maybe is potentially turning into something. And both those guys are I think have value. So it's really do you keep Rivers or do you draft a quarterback in the second or potentially the third round? And so we'll see. Right now, he's a keeper, but he may not be in a couple months.
I have no comments whatsoever on the Giant Killers keeper lineup. I think that they all are terrible.
I think a lot is going to be riding on those two talented but unproven, for the most part, receivers. Moore looked good last year. Davis has looked good at times, but they're your only two receivers they're going to have to produce. Sterling Shepard, I just feel like, is a guy who's probably going to catch 80 balls and get close to 1,000 yards and score 6 touchdowns, and that's a solid guy to have as your number 3 receiver.
It could be him. I mean, we'll see. I gotta, we'll see what the quarterback. If there's other trades, if Terry's trading Breeze to somebody else, not the Killers. So, I mean, if other things are happening, and I feel like it just makes more sense to pick a quarterback in the second round or even the third round, then we'll do that. But I think Rivers is going to have a good season. He's got some decent receivers. He's got Hunter Henry coming back.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to put up numbers. So I have no issue, if Rivers is the keeper versus a marginal guy like Shepard. So we'll see.
Too much on Phillip Rivers. Who cares? The guy's 38. He's a throwback every other year. He's going to be a fine quarterback, but who cares? Let's talk about Berto's incredibly sunburned face. I can only assume it's from golf outing and lack of sunscreen. It almost looks worse than Stick's hat, which makes him look 10.
Is that from golf, Berto? Oh, that is from golf.
I think it's from soccer games on the weekend.
He just threw a brushback pitch at 2 people at the same time.
Little chin music.
Little chin music.
Let's go. Enough Phillip Rivers. Who cares?
All right.
Let's talk more Phillip Rivers. Come on.
Moving on. I do want to talk about Sammy Watkins, traded to the Aliens, but we're going to table that because it ties into another topic we're going to get to. Let's go to the big trades involving the Sponge Fishermen. First, sending quarterback Baker Mayfield to the Lizards. Straight up, Adam Thielen coming back to the Sponge. I do want to hear about those negotiations. Did it involve the other quarterback, Andrew Luck? Did it involve other receivers such as Odell Beckham? How did we arrive on Mayfield and Thielen? Let's start there, Chief.
Yeah, it seems to have great interest to you, but it really wasn't that. Rich and I have been talking off and on since February about possibly a quarterback for a wide receiver swap. And we'd talk, 3 or 4 times during the course of the day and then not talk for 3 weeks. And I was talking to other owners, and I actually had a decent offer from a different owner. So I said, let me go back one more time and see if I can nail something down with the Lizards. And all 4 wide receivers were in play. All 2 quarterbacks were in play. The draft picks were in play. It seemed like the easiest and cleanest thing to do was the 1-for-1 swap. I would have loved to get, Mike Evans out of that, or Michael Thomas. But I don't think it was going to happen. Again, it was a very clean 1-for-1 swap. Adam Thielen was his number 4 receiver, which is remarkable.
Yeah.
By reputation anyway, and he's also the oldest one they have over there.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's not like I was negotiating from a huge position of strength. Right, there are probably 2.5 teams I was negotiating with. Not everybody needs a quarterback. I thought that was the best deal I could get, and I, didn't want to drag on any further, so I took it. I want to concentrate on the next move after that.
I think it was a good trade. I think it's one of those rare ones where you look at it and go, "Huh, okay, that makes
sense."
You both got rid of an asset that you had an extra piece with. I hear you may want one of the younger receivers, but I think Thielen is a really solid number 2 with one upside some weeks, and I think that's a good trade. And Mayfield, who knows? He could be a stud, but you already have Luck. So what are you going to do? Good trade.
Yeah. So the Lizards saying goodbye to either not either, but both Cam Newton and Ben Roethlisberger. The Lizards now with the tandem of Mayfield to Beckham is going to be a scary proposition every week. Chief then goes on and gets Julio Jones, giving up a first rounder, and I believe there's some conditions involved, but it looks like it would be a third rounder.
Unless he holds out, it's a third rounder.
Right.
It goes on IR during the preseason.
And a 2020 first rounder, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
So this is actually the more interesting one to talk about.
So I want to look at them real quick as a package. Chief, you have, forgive me, traditionally not. Well, let me put it this way. Traditionally, you have gone into the draft looking for receivers.
Yeah.
And I'm curious if this was a strategy to actually go and overhaul your receiving core in a way you haven't done before, not just adding one, but 2 really strong receivers, or was it just sort of coincidence it just happened this way? Was this a grand plan to go get 2 really good receivers here?
Yeah, I mean, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Reliable point-scoring running backs are very hard to get in this league if you don't draft them. And so I said, I'm drafting number 2 overall for a reason. And I'm saying, well, if I can't get these top 15 running backs on my roster, at least I can try to get some, top 10 wide receivers and try to win that way. So I'll try to win with receiving and quarterbacking, and and hopefully I get enough out of the running back position. The part-timers, the third down backs, the all-purpose guys can, and whoever I draft number 2 can chip in a little bit. So that's it. It's just the reality of the situation.
Another one I think was pretty fair and whatnot. I think Chiefs done a good job with those receivers, and I love Julio Jones. So
let's talk about that Julio Jones, because that was a much more interesting thing.
Yeah, you know how I feel about him. He's one of the best receivers in football.
It was right after I think it was the Hams and Giant Killers trade, and the guy I was looking for on the Hams, to be honest with you, and this was even before Doug Baldwin retired, was Tyler Lockett. And I say, Tyler Lockett might be a sneaky good number 7 keeper this year.
Yeah.
And so right after that trade, I texted Mike. I said, let me know if we're making any other moves. I'm looking at, adding to my receiving core. Master said, you can talk to anybody. I could say, and he told me that, Julio Jones is available. And I said, well, I like Tyler Lockett as much as the next guy. But yeah, if I have a chance to add Julio Jones or Antonio Brown, I pretty much had to pick of either one. Then let's not sell a hamburger here if there's sirloin on the table. But the other interesting thing about that is Michael didn't want the number 2 overall pick this year in the trade. So that kind of tells you the strength or lack of strength in the 2019 NFL draft.
I think David Montgomery's going to be a good number 2 pick.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of surprising, because
you'd rather take a chance on maybe it'll be number 2 again. I don't know. Maybe it'll be number 6, maybe number 8, maybe number 11. Yeah. Who knows? Next year than the number 2 this year.
I'm shocked by that. Like, if you have a chance to get the number 2 overall, that doesn't even compute for me. Like, I couldn't understand why he wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Get Michael. What are you thinking, man?
Like I said, that was really interesting negotiation. But after that, it came together pretty quickly.
Because even if you next year, let's pretend you do exactly the same 2. I mean, maybe there's a little bit better player, but you waited a year to get him. I don't know.
But
But he also traded for Thielen. He's added talent. So
the odds of that 2020 pick being in the top 3 again, I think, are slim. Not relatively slim, yeah.
They're going to be better, and so all of a sudden next year you get the 6 or the 8 pick instead of the 2. That's terrible, Michael. Bad move.
Yes, bad move.
Wow.
Rare bad move from the Hams GM there, I think.
Yeah.
And Chief, I think will back this up. It seemed like Michael really had intent of getting rid of Brown or Jones and going younger, keeping Mike Williams.
Yep. And there's no doubt he would have accomplished it. Usually I don't like trading for players this early. Mm-hmm. I don't like carrying the injury risk all through the preseason. But it's a matter of, if I don't get him, somebody's going to.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to pick him up next month.
He had floated Antonio Brown around.
Michael's been doing good enough in this league recently that I don't question his moves. He might just have a nice trade chip, trade deadline for future number 1 pick.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's built some nice some draft capital back in this draft. Yeah, even without getting the number 2 pick back.
Yeah. So I've got this in my notes here that the Hams not only have their pick in the first and second rounds this year, which is unusual for a defending champ. They will have 3 picks, 3 of them in the 3rd round this year. They'll get to bolster their depth very quickly. And now an extra first rounder in 2020. Young Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. This team is probably going to be pretty good for a while.
Yes, and so we shouldn't necessarily question Michael's genius and all of this, but he turned down the number 2 pick. I'm still going to question it.
Yeah, I am too. I don't get that, but
yeah. All right, let's talk about Tyreek Hill, and we'll get to Sammy Watkins obviously in a second. I'm a little fascinated by this. This has sort of become a non-issue over the last month when it seemed like Hill was going to get released and suspended, overnight. You think back to the Kareem Hunt situation and how in a matter of 3 hours, boom, Hunt gone. And here we are a month later, Tyreek Hill still with a job. You do have to believe he's going to be suspended by the NFL. Yes. And released by the Chiefs. Do you see that happening?
I think a lot is going to have to depend on the legal proceedings against him. You mentioned it's kind of died down a little bit, and I kind of forgotten some of the details there. Is there video on this one? Maybe there'd be video on this one.
Audio. I think there's audio. There's no video, right?
And that he broke his son's arm or something like that.
Yeah.
Threatened her.
Right. So it certainly seems like Kansas City's prepared to move on, or they use a high pick, the number 2 pick.
Yeah, that wide receiver out of Georgia,
something. Hardman.
Hardman.
And
yeah.
so
Cole Hardman.
I think it's going to depend on number 1 the legal proceeding, how that result is, and then what does the NFL do? Right, if the NFL suspends him indefinitely, then why would the Chiefs keep? Why would the Chiefs keep him?
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think what the NFL punishment for Adrian Peterson was. It wasn't significant. It wasn't a couple of game suspension, if that. I don't even remember.
Yeah.
Thought it was the full season.
Was it season?
I thought it was full season as well.
Yeah.
You're probably right. I trust your memory.
I didn't think it was that long. Let's look that up.
Now, where do you get a detail on that?
But if you look, I think if you look at his stats, he's missed 2 full seasons. 1 with the knee injury,
right,
and 1 because of that suspension.
No,
you're right.
Now you mention it, sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Peterson suspended without pay for rest of 2000.
He didn't get suspended until November, so he probably missed the last 5 or 6 games.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just very interesting how we've heard nothing on this now for the last month, but you have to believe he's facing a lengthy suspension.
Nothing's changed in the last
right. It's interesting. You go look at all the rankings out there, and most rankers have taken Tyreek Hill off their lists. I have taken Tyreek Hill off of the projected keeper list for the AMPAC. Let's assume Hill isn't there. It sounds like the Chiefs have kind of made that assumption already. Doesn't this bode well for Sammy Watkins? Aliens went out and traded a third rounder for him. The Chiefs did draft Mecole Hardman. But Watkins, I would think, becomes a strong receiver there if he stays healthy, of course. Always the caveat.
Yeah. I'm still waiting for Sammy Watkins to be a quality NFL player.
We've been waiting for that for a really long time. I mean, he's good. He's got speed for days, but he never does it. Let's see it.
Yeah.
I'm
the opportunity's going to be there. That's
right.
for sure.
That's the point.
So, yeah.
Yep. Do you foresee Hill's departure having a big impact on Patrick Mahomes?
I don't.
Absolutely.
I think yes.
I think he's going to be. I think he's going to be successful. He's going to be good. And I don't know. There's going to be maybe. There's going to be a little bit more for Kelsey. They're going to get other guys in the mix. But I think Mahomes is going to be fine.
He'll be fine. But listen, Tyreek Hill took away 2 or a minimum 1.5 defenders every single play.
Yes.
Just keep one guy man to man, and the other guy so far back he didn't get beat deep.
Yeah.
That he couldn't make any other plays.
He's like Steph Curry on a football field. Curry, comes off a pick. He distorts the defenses. People get out of position. Hill does the same thing on the football field.
Yeah, I agree.
Scary. May have been the scariest guy in the league to defend, I would think.
As good as Mahomes was, Hill was the difference maker in that offense.
I think they're going to feel it. They will feel it this year. He's a unique player. You cannot swap one for one, and it will impact the way the Chiefs do things. And Mahomes.
Over under on Mahomes passing touchdowns 37. Over or under?
Under.
But not much.
Under.
That's a pretty good number.
I mean, he can have 32 touchdowns, and it's a great year.
Yeah.
I'll take the under too, but
Wow.
I might not at 35.
That 35 would have been the back of an envelope figuring there.
Yeah. Okay. It's a great year. It's a far cry from 50 touchdowns again.
He's not.
that's true.
Yep. All right. I had one last topic on the agenda. Actually, this came up a little bit earlier in our chat. I'm going to try not to drone on for too long here, and feel free to jump in and echo me or argue. But I did want to nod to the greatness of the Lizards, what was 4 deep wide receiving core that they have built. Odell Beckham, we sort of talk about this in passing a lot over the years, and I just want to stop and acknowledge it. Odell Beckham, Mike Evans, Michael Thomas, Adam Thielen, now gone, but that still leaves him with Beckham, Evans, and Thomas, 3 top 10, if not maybe top 5 receivers. And the way they pieced it together, it really is one of the draft's great success stories. I noted here some other examples of the Beavers' selection of Aaron Rodgers, the AMPAC and the way they built their dominant running back core, the Senators and everything they did in 2017, and the Devils, everything they did in 2018. What the Lizards did to build this receiving core is a really good story. Mike Evans at number 3 overall in 2014. I think that was the first year we did the webcasts, and we talked a lot about how Sammy Watkins fell not only past the Lizards at 3, but all the way to 14. And we forget that taking Mike Evans there at number 3 overall was a bold move for the Lizards. That same draft, they got Odell Beckham in the 6th round. An incredible way to get two stud wide receivers in one draft.
That's crazy.
Michael Thomas came at the very end of the 4th round of the 2016 draft. So Beckham, a 6th round pick, Michael Thomas, a 4th round pick, Adam Thielen, again traded away, but they've enjoyed several good seasons from him as a guy they took in the 3rd round. So well done, Lizards. Well done, Adam and Rich. Evans was the only 1st rounder of the bunch, but even then was an inspired pick. So well done.
Golf clap for the Lizards. Well done.
You know something? It's kind of funny because that was the first year we did this, and I remember thinking, I think I was drafting maybe number 9 or so that year, and I took Brandon Cooks. I think I took 10. I think Hank took Kelvin Benjamin, and you see Watkins just fall and fall and fall. Not only the running backs and veterans, other receivers starting to go ahead of him. And I remember on one of the first webcasts, I was complaining that I messed up the draft. There's no way I should let Watkins go past me. I was just that unprepared to have him there, and I was in love with Cooks at that point. I think everybody made the right call.
I think it worked out okay for everybody.
Absolutely.
Bernard Pierce or Bilal Powell up there or somebody.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the collective wisdom of the league and letting him go by has proven to be okay.
Our collectively the league's ability to find the players has gotten better in our term.
Rookie receivers, we know generally have not produced. So I can see why a guy like Beckham, who had a hamstring issue in training camp, slipped a little bit, but a nice pick there. I can't recall how high we were projecting Mike Evans to go in that 2014 draft, but I don't think anybody saw that coming at number 3.
Yeah, I don't know that, but I know he made a lot of acrobatic plays with him and Johnny Football were together, and it was a big tandem. So he had a little hype around him, but I think 3 was definitely high. You're right.
And I want to say that we had done, when we did like a mock draft or something like that, we did have him in the 1st round. I mean, I think even like 6 or 7 or something like that. Maybe not 3.
Yeah, that sounds really high, but
yeah.
All right. Well, and as Chief has talked about, you build a really strong receiving core. They can put up a lot of points and overcome a mediocre running back core. I think actually the Slippery Beavers were the first team to sort of go that route a while ago with a really deep wide receiver core.
Jordy Nelson, Jackson,
Demaryius Thomas.
Well, it's a flip flop of where the Lizards were for years too, having kind of a dominant running back core, and then not really having the receivers, and then they had the receivers. Now they running backs are not quite where they would want, but
do they have the right quarterback now? We'll see. Okay, let me give you our trivia answer. Four parts to this. I'm looking for the last time the number 1 overall pick was traded.
Oh, you know what?
I'm embarrassed because this is.
I
want to make sure I get the year right here. Hold on.
Yeah. I wrote something down immediately, and I'm not gonna. I'll give them actually. I changed my mind halfway through the webcast.
All right.
I'm guessing totally with the Beavers and the Senators just making a trade in 2013 where they got Le'Veon Bell. No idea.
Le'Veon Bell at 3 overall.
In 2012, the Hormel Hams traded the number 1 overall pick to the Aliens the day before the draft.
Wow.
The Aliens used that pick to take Trent Richardson.
Okay.
What year?
2012?
Pieces.
2012.
All right, I have the Aliens as one of the teams.
I got none of that. One piece of that.
I got none of that.
Can you read my writing here?
Yeah, you did well. You almost have it nailed.
I do have it nailed.
Oh, you have it fully?
Yeah, he has it. Wow, that's impressive.
That is impressive.
Well done, Chief.
That came to me about 12 minutes ago. This is what I had first.
What did you have first? Hams Fever, Ron Dane, or Sens Fever?
Wow.
Nice.
And
I thought, you know what? It'd be like Stick to have a trivia question about himself.
Nice pull.
All right, I got
Good
one
job,
point.
Chief.
All right, you keeping score, Hank?
I'm just. I gotta pull up. It's been a while since we pulled up the trivia here, so I'm gonna get it. Okay.
Nice work on that. Damn.
Yeah, that is a really
Impressive.
good poll, Chief.
All right, while you're pulling that up, Hank, let's talk about our next webcast.
Actually, if I may,
yeah, please.
I just pulled up that Sammy Watkins draft. If you want to go ahead and run through the first 14 picks.
Go ahead.
Go for it.
Okay. Carlos Hyde to the Aliens. Bishop Sankey to the Hams. Mike Evans to the Lizards.
Wow.
Andre Williams, running back, Boston College, to the Hams. Jeremy Hill to the Giant Killers.
Okay.
Good pick. Devontae Freeman to the Mongols. Better pick.
Better pick.
Terrence West to the Fats. First veteran comes off at 8. Jeremy Macklin to the Marcus Wheaton to the Packers. I remember we all hooted about that one.
Yeah.
Hasn't gotten any better over time.
No.
Brandon Cook at 10 to the Sponge. Kelvin Benjamin to the Wheaton. Bernard Pierce. I remember the Mongols needed a week 1 starter. I think Steven or maybe that was the next one, Senators. Bernard Pierce to 12. To the Mongols. Steven Jackson. This was a very late career. Steven Jackson to 7 to 13.
Sends. I remember that one.
And then 14, the Hams stop Sammy Watkins slide. Ball with the Mike Wallace on Hams. 15.
So the Hams drafted Watkins,
Pierce.
traded Watkins, reacquired Watkins, traded him again. The Aliens have traded for him twice. We'll see.
All right. Sorry. Give me the points again. Hank got 0. TR got 0.
0.
I got 1.
Berto got 1, and Chief got 4.
You got it.
Running away with it.
Chief is already out to a 4-point lead.
That's right. Next time on another webcast, you'll have a 37-point possibility.
Terry, I don't know how, but you and I actually got 3 on the last webcast. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't. Could be the last 3 points I'll see for a while.
Well, we all did. So
There you go.
All right, good.
All right.
All right. So I think NFL teams, like, over the next 6 weeks, are just praying that none of their guys get arrested or anything terrible. It's going to be a fairly slow period for a while. I don't think we'll get back on here until July or so as training camps open. But in the meantime, as Terry said, I think we'll start to figure out the bills for the house in Myrtle Beach. If you've got a minority owner or anybody else we want to invite to the draft, let's start to figure that out so we can do the math on the billing. Yep. Start making more trades. Let's see what happens with Drew Brees. And we'll perhaps plan to have Michael Giovenco on here soon so he can defend himself against giving up on the number 2 pick in this draft.
So when's our next webcast target date?
I'm thinking 2 months from now.
Okay.
I don't know if events dictate that we talk sooner, sure, but I think it's going to be a fairly slow period.
Let's see what happens.
Yep.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, if Drew Brees gets traded and a bunch of other important TFFL trades happen, maybe we'll get back on. But I suspect after 1 or 2 trades that people will start to wait and see what happens during training camp. And as we get closer to the keeper deadline, you'll see a bunch of stuff. But I think we can probably safely wait until July.
All right.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you all. Good luck to everybody in your trade deliberations.
All right.
And looking forward to seeing everybody in a few months.
Take care, everyone.
Good night.
Until next time.
All right. See ya.